Hi, and welcome to the Ballyhoobridge podcast, where we are your bridge out of chaos. I'm your host, Heather, and I've discovered the thing I enjoy most in life is helping people get unstuck. What do I mean unstuck? Well, are you stuck in your own chaos? Are you either struggling to quiet the noise and figure out your next move, or you know what to do, but you have no idea how to actually do it? Whether it's trying to understand all your spiritual desires or trying to grow a solo business. And now you're asking why I'm talking about both, right? Well, because it's been my experience that spiritual growth and solo business often go hand in hand. And that with the desire to grow, in comes the chaos. No matter where you are in that journey, you often just need someone to take you by the hand and help you bridge the gaps to your next goal, your next success. You need help to quiet the madness and understand your options. So we're going to talk about spiritual things and sometimes business things and probably a few other things too as we move through the chaos and cross the bridges. I hope you'll come along with me. Hey guys, hope everyone's doing well. I'm actually happy to report that at this time I am feeling a bit better and feeling like I'm actually making some forward progress. So I'm super happy to be able to share that. And you know, another one of the things that I've put back into my routine as I'm working on all this, healthcare and healing and whatnot is journaling. And, I know that may sound simple, and I know a lot of people are already doing it, but if you aren't, I would really think about adding into your routine. Now, I know the last time we talked about meditation, and I feel like journaling is really just the next step after you've had your prayer or your meditation time. And there are just so many ways that you can journal. I'm going to be honest, I've never been big on journals. Even as a kid, I was kind of more into drawing and things like that. And as much as I love to write and tell stories, I don't remember ever keeping a diary or anything like that. It's just something I never did. But fast forward quite a few years, and I was actually at a time in my life where I was having a really hard time. My mom had passed away many years ago, and I think it was around the time my dad passed. And despite the fact that I was well into my 30s at that point, I suddenly felt like an orphan, and I was just really struggling with a lot of depression and just really negative thoughts. And my pastor at the time, he was trying to help me, and the first thing he asked me was, did I keep a gratitude journal? Because gratitude was where I needed to start in order to change what was going on in my head. And I had never done it, obviously, but decided that, you know what, I'm going to give it a try. And it really did help. I mean, it helped a lot. It helped me train my brain to think differently. But of course, over time, I got out of the routine and really out of the habit. But again, starting this, spiritual journey, journaling was something that just kept coming up a lot. It's what kind of all the people around me were talking about journaling and how are you journaling and what are you journaling? And I was actually kind of amazed by how many different ways people were journaling and how helpful it was to them on so many different levels. And of course, this is something that it doesn't fall under that woo realm that we've talked about, although there are probably some types of journals that actually we may talk about a couple that those might kind of fall under that, I guess. But this is really a practice that it can be helpful for really anyone at any point in your life, or maybe every point in your life. Now, I'm going to admit something. I don't always keep this habit up. I stated already that I'm completely off my routine lately. So, journaling was one of the things that fell to the wayside too. But I have found myself picking it back up, and it's really playing an important part in my mental health. I mean, journaling can be a really important part of your self care. It can help you work out maybe anxious thoughts that you're having. It can help you manage your stress. It can help you find clarity when you're having some issues that you need to work through. It can help you stay on track for goals that you've set. It can help you just get to know yourself better. I think it also helps with your creativity. It is truly an act that's for you. And there are so many different ways you can journal or different types of journals. We just talked about a gratitude journal. It was suggested to me that I start with 3 things that I'm grateful for every morning. And of course, you can do a different number if you want. Maybe start with 3, work up to more if you want. I admit there are days I can go for a huge, long list of things I'm grateful for. And there's other days, especially when I first started out, it was truly basic things because, y'all, I was pretty low. It's probably in a bit of victim mentality. So it might have been, I have a roof over my head, and I have food to eat, I have a job. These were all simple, but they were true. It can really be anything, I guess, though. I mean, it can be about health and relationships. You just have to look at your life and look for the positive. And the more you do that, the easier it will be to find those things that you're grateful for. I mean, maybe you're grateful that you have a nice boss because your friend has a really shitty one and it made you realize kind of how good yours was. Look, whatever it is, we're in a judgment-free zone here. Just make a note of it. You can also take it one more step and at the end of the day, note 3 good things that happened during the day. And again, this may be harder on some days than others. If you've had a really crap day, it may be hard to come up with positives. But maybe it's as simple as, you know what, I got to work safe. I had the money to buy my Diet Coke today. My computer worked all day long. I'm going to note one more thing here, especially if you're struggling to find the good things. Try not to write it down as a negative. So let's say what your positive for the day was, my boss wasn't a dick today. Maybe you could just kind of change that around to, my boss and I got along today, or my boss was nice today. Because the truth is, when you're writing those things as negatives, it tends to allow that negative emotion to stay in your brain. So really working on turning that positive thought around, that's really helped me because it kind of gets me in the habit of doing that, and it gradually starts to happen in the rest of my life a lot more easily. So if you're getting started with journaling, a gratitude journal, I think is a really great place to start. You could also try a win journal. I have a friend that does that. It's kind of a play on a gratitude journal where you keep a list of wins. They could be big, they could be small, but when you have a win, write it down. And I tell you what, when you get to the end of the year and you look back through that, I think you're going to be surprised by how much you really did and how much actually went well. It's a great, great confidence booster. I often also do just a daily journal where I just sort of talk about my day and keep track of my life. It's a diary. A lot of people have done diaries. Another one I frequently use is what's called by most a stream of consciousness journal. I call it a bullshit journal because basically I just word vomit, and it takes as many or as few pages as I need to clear my head. It's not structured writing where you formulate your thoughts and set an intention of what you're going to write about. You literally just empty your head. And I find especially if you're trying to work something out or you're stressing out over something that you're struggling to see, this can be perfect because you have all that noise in your head. And when you start writing it out, it sort of clears your head. And you tend to start to see patterns in what you're writing. You start to see where the real issue lies, maybe, so that you know what to work on. Or that idea that you were trying to figure out finally starts to form. And of course, as you go back and take a look at the things that you wrote, you start to see that pattern or see that answer. Y'all, I've seen that work so many times because you just needed to clear your head, and maybe meditation or other things you were trying wasn't working. So I'm telling you, it's a great way to clear your head. I love doing this one. It's one of my favorite kinds. Now, of course, if you're not a writer, or maybe you're just not in the mood to write, you can always do an art journal. You could draw or paint or illustrate. I am a super visual person. So sometimes that's actually just exactly what I need to sort of state how I feel at that time, or to show what I'm going through at that time. And it's just a different form of creativity. I've also done a lot of food journaling in my life. I find this one kind of comes and goes for me, kind of depends on what phase of my life I'm in. Recently I was trying to figure out what might be triggering these seizure like episodes that I'm having. So I would journal my whole day. Everything I took in, my activity. I was looking back at everything, trying to see if I could see some sort of trigger. But a food journal can really be helpful for just about anyone. I mean, if you're dieting, it can show you sort of how you're doing, what you've had for the day. Maybe you start to see, hey, I need to adjust because I'm taking in a lot of carbs here, a lot of sugar here, or I need to increase my activity here. So it can really be a great way to see what you're doing. And I mean, even if you're not on a diet, there's a lot of people that it helps them to just know what they've eaten during the day. It helps them stay mindful. I know some people that do special journals, like maybe for their travels or even for nature, exercise. Maybe if you're into herbs, you can journal how you're working with those herbs and the things you learn and things like that. You can do the same with crystals. I'll also keep a moon journal. I basically try to keep track of what happened during a full moon or a new moon. If there was something I was trying to call in or something I was trying to let go, I can go back and see how that's progressing. For example, maybe there's something you're trying to let go of, but it's kind of persisting. So maybe you can look back and see what's going on and see where you might need to work on it differently or do something differently. Now, if you follow astrology, hopefully you have someone in your life. I have Spring. She is amazing. She's been in another episode and she helps us through a lot of this. Or maybe you know how to read charts yourself, but you can keep track of more than just the basic moon cycle. There's a lot of things that affect that. We have discussions in our moon group about what's going on with a certain moon, like the emotions it might be bringing up or things like that. For example, there may be a great moon for starting a new project, and according to the charts, you started and then it should resolve in 6 months. Well, if you've kept this journal, again, you can look back and see what it was you started and assess where you are now. So it's a great way to keep track of all those things. Now, one more type of journal I keep is a meditation journal. After I've been in meditation or prayer, I try to take the time to write down anything that I gleaned or downloaded while it's still fresh in my mind. And then I can always come back to it. And if I need to reflect on it more or try to interpret it more or something like that, I can do that. But getting it written down right then before I forget is always a key for me. Now, sometimes I can go back to it later and maybe I even remember a part of the download that didn't sort of stick with me before. Or maybe there was something that at the time I wasn't really comprehending it, but now the time has come for me to process it. Maybe it was really important. So I have found that's really, really helpful for me. I love being able to go back and just clarify those things. Of course, I also do that a little bit for readings that I do for people. I keep a notebook of any readings that I get. That way I can refer back to it if the person needs to know something else or maybe they forgot part of what I told them. I hope you've noticed that one of the things that's helpful for a journal is you tend to see a pattern of things like progress that you've made. Journals can just be so handy for that and for reflecting. In those pages, you'll see those patterns and see things that maybe you can just do better, whether as a person overall, or maybe it's helping you stay on track to reach your goals or your desires. But writing your thoughts, reflections, ideas, all the things can truly give you the insights that you need in your life. So, like I said, I highly recommend it as a practice, really, no matter what stage of life you're in or what your needs are. It can just be so, so helpful. I do want to add a few thoughts though. Don't make journaling a chore. I did that for a while. I felt like I had to do it. So then, of course, what did I do? I stopped. It should be something you enjoy. It should bring you joy and comfort. I do recommend setting aside a time every day for it. But look, that doesn't have to be in the morning or even at night, I don't guess. Look for a time that works for you and your schedule. But the best way to actually keep it up is to make it a habit. Now, of course, with that in mind, be realistic about how often you can do this. And look, you don't have to keep all these types of journals. These are merely suggestions of ones you might try. I say start small, see what works for you, see what kind of journal fits your needs. I have several journals going at once, but I rarely work in more than one a day. In fact, I often don't journal every day. Now, of course, if you find yourself a little stuck and you're not really sure kind of where to start with your journal, you can always look for prompts. I mean, you can find those online actually pretty easily, and that might help you sort of get thinking. Sometimes I just need a little nudge in a direction to get myself moving. Nothing wrong with that. I also recommend finding a quiet place to do the work. Less distractions makes it a lot easier. But you know what? Change places if you need to. Sometimes a little change of scenery can get your thoughts moving. I think the most important thing to remember, though, is that this is for you, right for you. If what you're doing isn't working, try another way. It doesn't have to be pen to paper either. You can journal on a computer if you want to. But this is your stress management, your release. And when you're doing it, try not to get caught up in some kind of misery. Look, it's okay to vent and wallow around for a while if you need to. But at some point, you've got to start turning those thoughts into positives and start finding the solutions that you need and start moving yourself out of that. And there may even come a point where you realize that that includes getting help from someone outside, if that's necessary. Like, I really meant it when I said journaling's a great form of self-care, and I truly recommend it really to everyone in some way or another. I mean, often when you need to find an answer, looking within is the best place to start, to find those next steps and to find a solution. So I would love to hear what you guys are doing. If you have other types of journaling that you do or suggestions, let us know. You can head over to our Facebook group, our Instagram page, and leave us a comment. Let us know what you're doing. Thanks so much for joining us today. We really hope you enjoyed today's episode and that it was helpful to you in some way. Make sure to like and rate and do all those fun things for our podcast. We really do appreciate it. And of course, check out the show notes for links and any other important information. Also, be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at ballyhoobridge. If you're looking for guidance in your journey, head over to ballyhoobridge.com. There you can do things like choose a time for a free 30-minute clarity call with me. And you can find out what ballyhoobridge means, in case you were wondering. In the meantime, don't forget to take care of yourself. Until next time.